What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about?
If you ain't talking the real, then we ain't gon' talk to ya.
What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about?
If you ain't talking the real, then we ain't gon' talk to ya.
Whenever you
What's up? What's up? This is WYTAP.
Going zone? It's your boy T Mandible, aka T Man, BKA Anthony Hood,
And this is Nicole, aka Sunshine. And I have the pleasure of introducing our guest, Mr. Josh Dubs.
I don't have any AKAs.
It's all right.
I need one. You gotta, before we're done, I need one.
We gotta get you one. We gotta get you an AKA.
We'll get you one.
So
But Mr. Josh Dubs, before we interview him, let's just give you a little background thing. Mr. Josh Dubs was an awesome professor at Bryan and Stratton when I went to school there. And he was one of the coolest professors I had. And then I did internship at his law firm with Nicholas Hicks.
I was really cool. I don't like to
Yes,
brag.
he is.
I don't like to brag.
The only issue we had was NFL, whose team he represents.
You can't see my lapel pin. It's my
He's wearing it, Lord.
my home state of Rhode Island, which is in New England. So
Oh man.
So you already know who he
go
votes
Patriots. That's right.
Well, me and Nicole here are Raven fans.
Right.
Yes.
We're both Ravens fans.
I don't have no problems with the Ravens.
I mean, I go for my home team, the Bills, but when those two are going against each other, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't go for the Bills, period.
I root for the home team, but but even though they ain't been anywhere in years, they've been to the playoffs due to the Bengals
Due to a faulty.
beating our team.
Yes.
And we supposed to have won that, but anyway.
Anyway,
we're going to allow you to introduce yourself
all right.
and what you do.
all right. I'm a partner at Webster Dubs PC. We're downtown, but we serve clients all over Western New York. Go all the way out to the Pennsylvania border in Chautauqua County. All the way far east is Rochester. We're a general practice firm. We do a lot of real estate and stuff related to real estate, including foreclosure defense, landlord-tenant, buys and sells. What else? In rem foreclosure defense, things like that. We do probate and estate work, including estate planning, Medicaid planning, trying to protect your assets. What else? We do some criminal defense, some civil litigation, some appeal work. We do just about anything except family law, divorces, things like that.
Okay.
He wears minty
Many
hats.
Minty.
Minty.
Is that minty fresh?
I've never tried my hat. It could be minty fresh. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh man.
So what do you like to do out of everything you named? What is your favorite that you like to practice in?
Well, I do enjoy the real estate aspect of it. It's good to help people buy their home. I mean, not that I don't enjoy helping investors and stuff like that, people that have a lot of homes and rent them out, but the most fun is when you've got a young couple with young kids and they're finally moving out of their apartment or they're moving out of their parents' place, getting their own home, they get their keys. They got a lot of questions because not everybody goes through this all the time, so you really got to help them and work with them, and they're very appreciative of that work that you do. So I certainly enjoy that. The other thing I personally enjoy a lot, it's not really in my personality, but helping people who've lost loved ones go through the probate process or go through the estate administration. It's very confusing. People got a lot on their minds. dealing with their families and just grieving in general. They don't want to deal with all the paperwork and stuff that
Right.
you got to deal with.
Yeah.
So I like helping to take that burden off of them. It's rewarding to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now with the probate, is there a way for them to avoid having to probate?
Yeah, there are ways to do that. There's lots of ways to do it. You talk about if you have a house, putting somebody else's name on the house as well, putting it into some sort of living trust, putting your kids' names on the house, but leaving for you what we call a life estate, which means you get the rights to live there for the rest of your life, but the kids technically own the house. With bank accounts, putting a beneficiary on the account, stuff like that. Those are all ways to do it, to avoid having to go to probate. The question then becomes, is one of those options a good idea for you based on your individual circumstances? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of questions that have to be asked. What are you looking to do? What are there tax consequences? Is it a good idea to put it in your kids' names? Are your kids maybe in some financial trouble? Stuff like that. So you gotta really get a big sense of everything. You gotta look at the whole picture, get a lot of information, and help them decide what the right route for them is.
Okay.
Nice. I don't even know what to ask. I was about to say something. I had it in my head.
Blew you away.
And then he was saying probate and saying all the things about, because I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah. Well, so probate, in air quotes, is a very general term. A lot of people think that probate, it happens anytime anybody dies. Technically, probate only happens if there's a will.
Okay.
You look to probate the will. If there's no will, then it's actually called something else, called administration.
Mm-hmm.
Similar, but if there's no will, then the law says what happens to your stuff. Will, you get to spell out what happens to your stuff.
Okay.
If you don't have a will, then there's a very specific line of succession where your stuff goes to your spouse, the first $50,000 and half of whatever's left. Then whatever the other half of what's left goes to your kids equally.
Okay.
If you don't have any kids, then your spouse get everything. If you don't have a spouse, but you get kids, and your kids get everything. If you don't have any kids and you get grandkids, they get everything. If they don't have that, then it goes to your parents, then it goes to your siblings, then it goes to your nieces and nephews, then it goes to your grandparents, then it goes to your aunts and uncles.
Okay.
Then it goes to your
Just go
cousins.
down the line.
Then it goes to your first cousins once removed. And at that point, if you still don't have
You said once removed.
yeah. And at that point, if you still don't have anybody, then Uncle
the
Andrew
state
Cuomo
tickets.
gets it.
Oh yeah, he's gonna love that. Huh?
So
I see. I didn't even know what it was. That's a good explanation of it. Yeah. To be honest, that's
no, yeah,
No, that's good.
Yeah.
No, because I work with law. Of course, you know.
Yeah.
And being trained with him.
that's right.
that's good.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people think, well, I don't need a will. My family knows what I want done with it. But that's dangerous because, number one, you don't know that they know that. Number two, what happens if something happens to them? I mean, you're very close to your daughter, for example. What happens if you and your daughter go together? What happens if your daughter's not around? What happens if your daughter predeceases and nobody knows? So, or even worse, what happens if you don't want somebody to get something? Because if you want to write somebody out, without a will, you can't do that. Whoever's supposed to get it, according to the law, they're gonna get it. Including, by the way, your spouse that you've been separated from for 20 years. If you're not legally divorced, your spouse gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that happens more frequently than you think. I've had a couple of cases where we've had to fight about that.
How did that one turn out?
Well, for the spouse, it turned out great.
Yeah.
Because they were
the
separated.
kids.
They were separated for like 20 years, but they never got divorced. And nobody wanted the wife to have anything, but the wife swooped in, and
She sure did.
She got $50,000 and half of whatever was that after that.
Wow.
So
that's why get a divorce. If you're not with them, get a divorce.
Yeah.
And get a will.
Or you get a settlement. But yeah, talk to somebody. Talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Spend a couple $100 on a consultation. You could save yourself a lot of money in the end. So
Yeah, that's what my grandmother had. She had something like that. She had a lot of stuff, and like her will was just saying what goes where, who gets what. It was another thing. What else she had? She had something where it's like she don't want to be on a machine. Stuff like that's part of it.
That's different. That's something different. But yeah, it's important to get that stuff too. Those are some advanced directives.
But do they go through somebody like you too to do that, or they have to go to like the hospital or
either? Either. So most hospitals, most doctors' offices will have that stuff.
Okay.
There's two things that they'll talk to you about. One's called a living will, and one's called a healthcare proxy. So the way we do it in my office is we've got a combined living will healthcare proxy. The healthcare proxy says if I can't make my medical decisions for whatever reason, usually it's because I'm in a coma.
This is what I want.
No, the healthcare proxy says this is who should make my decisions for me.
Oh, okay.
The living will is what says here's the decisions I want made.
That's what she got. The decisions she wanted. Like I don't want this.
Yeah, exactly. So you can name somebody, but you can also say here's what I want them to do, and that way if that person you named goes against your wishes, your other loved ones can take them to court and say this is not what she wanted. This is what she wanted. Do this.
Wow.
And a judge will tell them she didn't want to be on the ventilator, but somebody's still clinging to hope. And they can say. Take them off the ventilator because that's not what she wanted. She didn't want to be on a ventilator.
Right. So. Okay.
Yeah. That's what my mother did, and I have one set up, and my husband has one set up. Don't keep me on a machine. I'm not alive.
Mm-hmm.
I told my wife to keep me alive. Keep me on the machines for 6 months to see if there's any change, and then smother me with a pillow. Smother me with a pillow.
That's it.
I don't want to see it coming. Well, I'll be out of it. So
You'll be out. You won't even be there.
Yeah.
No brain activity. You won't even know.
Exactly. No brain activity. Yeah. I'm like, so cut it.
Smother me with a pillow.
Oh, just take me out.
Take the life insurance money and go to Hawaii.
Go to Hawaii.
Because that's what I'm doing. No.
Look, Italy.
Italy. Italy's good too.
Yes. So what else would you say? Ooh. Let's talk about tenants.
Okay.
I went with you on some trips to the court about these tenants and evictions.
Yeah.
How
do I sleep at night being a landlord lawyer? Is that what you're going to ask me? I get asked that a lot. Mostly by tenants saying, how can you sleep at night?
What are the... look, if you don't pay your rent... Then look, pay your rent, pay your bills.
Right.
But as that, how in depth do you have to go to take it there?
How in debt?
In depth, like how much work or how much do they have to be behind in order to be evicted, and how can people avoid being evicted? Is there ways that the courts work with them, or
some courts? I mean, each court does its own thing. The Buffalo City Court, the hearing officers there have a general rule of giving everybody 2 weekends.
Okay.
So whatever day of the week it is, they won't kick anybody out for 2 weekends, just to give the tenants time. As for how in debt do you have to be? 2
weekends just to get their stuff to get out, or 2 weekends to get some money to give?
2 weekends to get out.
Oh, so that is like when you hit court, it's like right, it's done.
In most cases, yeah. I mean, how far behind you have to be? Technically, the law says if you're just $1 behind, then your landlord's got the right to start the process. But the law also says that if the tenant comes in and pays the money that they owe in the petition, then the judge is required to just dismiss the case. So if you only owe $1 and your landlord is vindictive enough to bring you in there for $1, you come in there and you slap $1 on the table, case dismissed. So most landlords won't.
Game over.
Yeah. So the landlords won't do that because they know it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's $45 to file an eviction petition. So if you're doing that over $1, you're already $44 out of pocket. So it's kind of silly doing, but. How can you protect yourself? Well, the best way to do that, obviously, is to pay your rent. Okay. If you get behind, talk to your landlord. Okay. Try to have a good working relationship with your landlord. Most landlords No landlords that I'm aware of want to hire me to kick their tenants out. They don't want to pay me to do that stuff, and they certainly don't want to do it themselves and blow a half a day in eviction court trying to get rid of somebody, because then the tenants are, there are legal aid organizations that will represent tenants for free. Then they got to deal with that. So, despite what some tenants think, landlords are not enjoying themselves having to be there or having to send me there. So if you could work it out with your landlord, great. Try. Okay. If you get a little behind because you lost some shifts at work, just say, I know I'm a couple $100 behind. Can I make it up a little bit here, a little bit there? Maybe throw you $50 extra a week. Just try and catch up. Also, a good thing to do is to get it in writing. I tell tenants all the time, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Don't rely on text messages. Don't rely on phone calls. Text messages are not good evidence because they could be faked. Okay, and verbal conversations can be denied.
Yeah.
Okay, but if it's on paper and it's got everybody's signature, that you can't argue with because it's black and white. It says it right there on the paper. So, work something out with your landlord and put it down on paper. Tenant will pay $50 per week every Friday for 4 consecutive weeks to make up the $200 that I'm behind. And then you do that. And if they bring you to court anyway, have the tenant bring that and say, look, we worked something out. What are we doing here? I think a judge would probably be very sympathetic to that. Because the judge doesn't want to be there anyway. No judges take pleasure in kicking people out. Nobody wants to do that. They only do it because they have to under the law. If you come in and you say, we already had this worked out, Your Honor, I don't know what the deal is, the judge will probably say, well, what are you doing here? What are we all doing here? And then the judge might say, well, let's come back in 4 weeks and see if he made all the payments. And if he didn't, well, then we could talk and we could kick him out. And if they made all the payments, then then I'm going to throw this away. And so
it's a waste of time.
Yeah. For tenants that are withholding their rent, okay, they're going to want to call somebody and talk to them about the proper way to do that. Say, if they are doing what we call a rent strike because there's some sort of habitability issue with the house, whether if there's no heat, no hot water, God forbid, no running water at all, these things happen. There's sewage in the basement. If there's black mold all over the walls, you can legally hold your rent hostage. But there's certain things that have to be done before you can just do that. Number one, you have to tell your landlord there's the problem and give your landlord a chance to fix it. And again, you can't just call them up and say, my hot water tank is busted. Got to put it in writing.
Right.
He's going to say, your landlord's going to say, I had no idea. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. They're just saying that because they don't want to pay. But if you put it in writing and you put it in their hands and you mail it to them and you keep a copy, you come to court with that letter, and we go to the landlord and we say, oh yeah, what's this? Okay. So after you give them a chance to fix it, you let them know and you give them a chance to fix it. If they still don't do it, and you have to take your rent money, you got to put it in escrow. So you take it to the bank and you put it in a special bank account. Or if you hire an attorney, you give it to the attorney and the attorney puts it in our trust account. And then we go to the landlord and we say, we are withholding our rent starting now, and we will continue to hold our rent until you fix these problems. And then the minute you fix these problems, you will get your money back. Then if the landlord takes you to court, you go in front of the judge and you say, Your Honor, we are withholding our rent. And then the judge is going to say, oh yeah, prove it. Prove that you're not just saying that and you don't actually have it. That's why you have to have it in their escrow account, because then you take your bank statement and you show the judge, look, this is a printout of my bank statement from this morning showing I got literally exactly 2 months rent in there right now, and he can have it back as soon as he fixes these problems. Or the attorney goes in there and says, Your Honor, I'm holding 2 months rent, and he can have it back as soon as he fixes these things. So the judge is going to turn to the landlord and say, why aren't you fixing it?
Right.
Your tenant's saying you can have the money back, 5 minutes after you finish fixing it. And the landlord's going to have to be like, he can't just withhold her, and the judge is going to say, get out of here.
Right.
But another thing to remember, it's got to be something that poses a real threat to your health and safety. I've had people say, well, the windows doesn't shut properly and it's drafty, or there's a lock on my door that's faulty or something. That's not going to be enough reason to withhold rent. There's also arguments that just saying that there's like a mouse infestation, that's also not good enough to withhold the rent unless it's a continual problem that the landlord doesn't fix. It's only stuff that actually poses a threat to your health.
Okay.
No hot water, no heat,
Okay.
stuff like that.
One of my neighbors, recently, she was like that. She withheld rent for a long time.
Yeah.
For like almost a year.
Yeah.
But she didn't do the proper way that you said. I didn't know you had to do all that just to keep everything going. But she held it for a very long time. And this might be another problem too, though. She held it, but when the landlord was able to try to fix it, the people comes to the house to fix it, and she won't let them in.
Yeah. Yeah, that is another problem because that's going to be something else.
I don't want them to come in my house.
Most landlords will document that stuff too. Say, well, I sent the plumber to fix the faucet that's leaking, and she said, "Oh, I'm not letting you in," or come back when I'm not here. And by the way, I'm only not here, between midnight and 8 a.m. No plumber's going to come that late.
Exactly.
So, right. For tenants, you also have to make reasonable accommodations to let your landlord fix your problem for you.
Right.
If you don't do that, you lose the moral high ground, and the judge isn't gonna look favorably on you for that either. So.
Right.
Good.
Right.
That's
that's crazy.
good that you told them, because a lot of people think, oh, I could just withhold until they go ahead and fix it.
Right. It ain't going
now
down.
that you said this is how you should
I didn't know that way, because if I would withhold it, I'd probably get myself in a bunch of craziness.
Yeah, no, you got it. They have to be aware of it. You have to let them know. You have to let them try to fix it. And if they don't fix it, if they know about the problem and they don't try and fix it, and it's a problem of your putting your health and safety in danger, you have the right to withhold your rent. But you gotta put it aside, because like I said, if they go in there and they fix it, if it's just a lug wrench that they need, and all they need to do is turn a screw and your heat comes back on, okay, if he comes and he does that, he's going to hold his hand out and say, give me my money.
Right.
And you got to give him the money.
Right.
So
they fix
all you're doing is holding
situation.
it hostage is
Right.
what it is. It's a crude analogy, but it's true. You're holding your rent hostage until your demands are met. And once your demands are met, you got to give them money.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? I got plenty.
You got him.
Okay.
You got him. She got more than me always.
You
Always she got more questions. I'm not a questionable type of guy.
and he always told us, if you did not write it down, it did not happen.
Right.
It's not in writing. It didn't happen. And it doesn't matter how honest you think your landlord is. It's amazing what people forget.
Mm-hmm.
They will.
I never had that conversation. Yeah, we did. I don't remember.
It was such and such day at such and such time.
Oh, I wasn't
You got
there
it in
that day.
writing?
Yeah, I was in. Yeah.
Yeah, we shook hands.
You can't argue with a piece of paper that's got their signature on it.
Right.
So.
Now, do you do contracts for tenants or for landlords so that way they can give to the tenant to sign?
I've never had a tenant ask me to do that. But landlords, sure. I mean, I do leases, that offer, all the protections that a landlord might need against their tenant in case, in terms of, I mean, not just the normal stuff, what your rent is, what utilities are your responsibility, but are they allowed to have pets? Are they allowed to smoke? Are they allowed to have candles? Are they allowed to have a grill? Stuff like that. It's all stuff that needs to get looked at. And in terms of settling, yeah, I mean, if you've got a problem with a tenant, but you can work it out, but you want to have something memorialized, sure, I could put that together for the landlord or the tenant. So
good. What are the do's and don'ts of a will? Like, what should people put in and what should some not put in?
I mean,
debt? No. Oh yeah, she get my debt.
Well, we can talk about that.
We can talk about that too. Yeah.
I mean, with certain exceptions, you could put just about anything you want in a will. So here's some of the stuff that you you definitely shouldn't put in a will, not because it's a bad idea, but just because they can't enforce it. A lot of people say, well, I want to be cremated and I want that in my will. Or I want to be buried next to my husband, or, whatever. I want my ashes scattered in, Forest Lawn Cemetery. I tell people, there's really no point in putting that in a will. You put that in a will, but by the time anybody opens your will and looks at it, you'll have been cremated and buried somewhere else by that point. So there's really no way to enforce it, because nobody's going to know about it.
Okay.
So I tell people, we can put that in your will if you want, but it's really not worth it. It's just wasting space. If you are married, another thing you shouldn't bother putting in there is saying that I leave nothing to my spouse, because in New York you can't write your spouse out of your will. Mm-hmm. And here's why. Back in, I want to say it's the 60s, the New York State Legislature passed what we call the right of spousal election, okay, which grants your spouse, in any circumstance where there's a will, the right to the first $50,000 and 1/3 of whatever is left after that, if they choose to exercise the right of spousal election. The reason they did that is because, in places like New York City, you get these very, very wealthy industrialists, who would be married to their faithful wife of 60 years, who raised their children, was by his side, for all that time. He would die. They'd go to open his will, and the will would say, I leave everything. I leave nothing to my wife, but I leave everything to my buxom blonde secretary.
See her face.
And
that was creeping.
And that stuff was happening. So, to make it so that these widows who had no job skills because their husband was the only person that was working for for their entire lives, were not basically just shunted out and thrown onto the street in favor of these nobodies. The legislature made it so that you can't just cut your wife out.
Good.
Or can't cut your spouse out.
Good.
So I tell people, don't bother, saying I don't want to leave anything to my wife. Even if you put that in there, it's not going to get enforced. Spouse will always have the right to the spousal election, which, by the way, is one of the reasons we were talking about that. If you are just separated and you are estranged from your spouse, you can make a claim that you guys were separated, but if you don't have a legal separation agreement or divorce proceeding started, they are still your spouse in terms of inheriting.
Wow.
So most times separation agreements, if you want to do a formal separation, will say that the spouse will waive his or her right to a spousal election and get cut out of the will, until you guys either reconcile or you get formally divorced. And divorce proceedings only have to begin in order to get your spouse cut out. They don't have to be finalized, so that if you file for divorce, today, and you die tomorrow before your divorce is even finalized, that process has already begun and your spouse is already cut out. So
now, what if you got a divorce and they never remarry and they die? Does the first wife get anything?
If they're divorced, no.
No.
No, if you're divorced, then
that's it.
Part of the divorce is that you give up your rights to any of their stuff.
Okay.
Okay, it's only whatever's in the divorce decree. Whether it's by agreement or by whatever. If you had to do a divorce trial or whatever, they'll decide how to split your stuff up, and then you're not entitled to anything else.
Okay.
So by that point, that'll be done. But
now let's talk about the debt. One spouse dies.
Yes.
Is the other one required?
So this is another way. This is another reason it's good to have some estate planning happen. So your debt doesn't die with you. Somebody's still responsible for paying it, but it doesn't transfer to one of your heirs. The debt doesn't become your spouse's, but the debt does get saddled to your estate. So, let's say, there's a house that the husband and wife own together, but everything else belongs to the husband. The husband dies, and there's, say, $500,000 of cash in the bank account. Okay, when he dies, the house legally becomes the wife's, if the house is titled to husband and wife. But the rest of the money goes to his estate. So he's got $500,000 in an estate. Now, let's say that there's $550,000 in debt that the husband leaves behind. Well, the debt holders can't touch the house because the house transferred to the wife right away. But the debtors can go after the money in the estate. They can put claims against the estate, say, this guy owed me money, I want my money paid. So the wife may wind up having the house, but then she's not going to get any of that $500,000 cash because that all goes to pay off his debt. Because there's not enough money there to pay the debt, the debtors are going to get a proportion of, there's going to be some complicated math that gets done. What percentage of the debt does this credit card or this lien holder have, and then they're going to get that percentage of the $500,000. So, but if the husband and the wife were on the bank account together, then that by operational law goes to the wife as well. So then the creditors can't touch any of that stuff.
Okay, so basically they should be put as beneficiaries just in case something happens.
It's not even really considered beneficiaries. It's considered they're just co-owners of an account. You and your husband probably have a bank account together.
We do, but we also have separate. Right,
that's fine. But then that's so if something happened to your husband, the money in the bank account that you two have together goes to you right away. The money in his bank account doesn't go to you right away, and it's subject to any debts that he leaves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Shouldn't he put me as beneficiary and me as him as beneficiary of mine?
It's not a bad idea.
You see the face.
The kids see it.
Oh, any questions, T?
No, you got me over here bugging out.
He's thinking. Everything's running through his mind.
I have a lot in my mind, but I don't know. I'm not good at I'm not good at questions. If you see any of our podcasts, she's the questionnaire. I'm just learning. Seriously, it's how it is. But
I've been bringing. We always discuss. We have a list, and there's a lot of things people need to know because they're not aware of, or they're naive to, or they think, oh, I could just, if I die, they know, like you said. But no, I'm telling people put it in writing because nobody knows.
That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, so here's an anecdote that my wife and I. Now I do this for a living. Okay, my wife and I didn't get our wills done until a couple years ago. After our son's first birthday, I said, we got to do it. I've had these wills drafted forever. We need to do it. So we go there, we go to my office, and my secretary and my paralegal were going to be our witnesses, and we're reading it over, and she's looking at that, and she's saying, she sees that I leave a guitar to my best friend from high school. He gets one of my guitars. And she's like, why would you put that in there? Don't you trust me to give this guitar to him? And I was like, well, yeah, but what happens if we go together? And now my sister's my sister's gonna be the executive.
Right.
And I've never told her I want this guitar to go to this person. I want my son to get this guitar. I want this to go to that. And so you think, well, one person definitely knows what I want, but what happens if that person isn't there to be consulted? What happens if they go first? What happens if you go together? There's any number of scenarios that can happen. So having it in writing so there's no questions.
Yep.
That's always the best thing to do. That actually brings me to another thing that you should definitely, if you've got kids or pets, you're going to want to put in there who you name to be your guardian. If you and your spouse, or if you're not married to them, whoever the child's other parent is, go together, or one predeceases the other. If there's nobody named, if nobody's been nominated by you, then guess who gets to decide? The judge gets to decide. The judge gets to decide who's the right person, and the judge does not want to do that. The judge does not want to have people fighting over who gets to take the kids. So you don't want to be able to put that stuff in your will to say, I want, this person and not this crazy other relative to take the kids. Same as with your pets. We've got a cat. We're pretty sure that our parents, mine and my wife's mother, would fight over the cat. So we had to make a decision. Who's going to get the cat? That's in our will. Who gets the cat? Who gets the kid? That's
Yeah, we thought
Gotta put that
about
stuff
who the
in there.
kids are going to be left with.
yeah.
Yeah.
The faces, man. The faces.
I have mentee.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's one thing me and my wife got to do. We got to think about what we're going to write in our will. We haven't done that yet.
I've been telling. See, this is why
This is
we're
it, yeah.
doing WYTAP.
Well, nobody-
We haven't done it yet. I mean, I'm
But-
not lying.
I know. No,
Nobody
I
wants to think
know.
about
But you may not want to think about death, but you gotta think
But it's
about it.
it's gonna happen
It's
one
gonna
way or another.
happen,
Yeah.
and God forbid it happens tomorrow.
Right.
Like,
Everybody
does
goes,
anybody know?
but
Well,
don't
then
know
you need to
when.
say it live now. Who do you want your kids to go to? God forbid you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only things in life are certain. Death, taxes, and the Patriots win the Super Bowl. But death is the first one.
And the Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Patriots, no.
Not next year though.
Definitely.
Next year, not next year.
That's what they said last year.
That's what they said this year.
Well,
last
New
year.
Orleans
Yeah, you're right.
got played out of the thing. That ref was blind. I said it. That ref needs some glasses and he needs some real. He was right there. But New Orleans, if they would have kept the lead like they had in the beginning,
wouldn't have needed
they
that
wouldn't have
penalty.
needed that last minute call by the ref.
Man, the Super
I'm
Bowl-
saying, let's talk
It
real.
doesn't even matter though.
Now
The
that
Super
Super
was
Bowl
boring.
stunk. Oh my God,
was boring.
halftime.
Even the
On
commercials
top of
wasn't
that,
even-
I love the football commercial though. That was
Yes.
the best. I loved it. And he
like
took
the-
the cake like, oops, I did all that.
I did all that. Oh yeah, when they were
Lynch would do, by the way.
Yup.
No, I also like the T-Mobile commercial where they text and they say, "I'm here for you," or "I'm here," and the guy replies, "Oh, thanks. You know, I've been having a real tough time lately." The guy's like, "No, I'm your Uber driver. I'm
Oh
here."
yeah, I saw that one.
There's a couple of good ones.
Not all of them,
No,
but
not
it was,
all
it was some
that.
good
Good ones,
It was
but
the
mostly they were
NFL
bad.
dinner one.
Yeah.
They was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And Marshawn Lynch is like, oh, what did I? And he was like, I did that.
Yeah.
And they all were, they
And
all
that
were
ball,
killing
they
it.
was like
that whole
football, and it's like that's how it is. Cause
They went down the
we're
line of
like
all
that
the
with
greats,
football
man, some of the
season.
greats.
It's like hoorah, let's go, jerseys
Right.
out, let's go, let's
Right.
get it.
For
Anyway, back to law.
Back to
yeah,
it.
for
we always
like
crack. At
So
it.
what? Yeah, we do. We always stop and do a little
Yeah,
something,
it won't
but-
be us.
for like realty. Like what other things do you do? Like let's say I'm trying to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do legally, or some of the legal things that I need to do to protect myself as I'm buying this home?
Well, best thing you can do is hire a guy like me, and then I do it all for you.
Oh, see, there it is.
All right. Yeah, no. So what are some of the stuff that we look at? We spend a lot of time going over the title. Okay, the seller's got to provide you with a survey, which is the drawing of your property, the property that shows everything. I wish I thought to bring a survey and a search to show you. But so it's a drawing. It's got everything. So if there's like an underground electrical line or a pipe, or a utility pole that goes up that's on your property, or a fence or a driveway, everything is on there, so you see exactly what it is you're dealing with.
Okay.
Everything that's on there. So what we're looking for in that is the driveway encroaching on your neighbor's land a couple feet? Is the fence straight, or is it, so this is your property, but the fence comes up a little bit like this, because there are possible consequences to that. It's stuff that we gotta work on. And then the most important thing is the search. Search is a thick packet that takes every time anything's happened to the property, all the way back to like 1823. So starting from the first land grant, from Western New York, to the first time a guy was given like basically all of Western New York, from Pennsylvania to like Syracuse, and then it got cut up as time goes on. Every time somebody sold the property, every time somebody died and willed the property to somebody, every time a mortgage was taken out on that property, every time a mortgage was discharged on that property, every time a lien was put on that property, a judgment, every time one of those were taken off, every time somebody that owned the house declared bankruptcy, it's all on there.
Okay.
And we go through that. I don't do the title exam myself because I'm not trained for it, but we get a title examination done by a title company, and they go through and they look at everything very carefully, and they go back and they say this mortgage is still open. We need proof that this mortgage was dealt with. And I get the title report back and they say, here's all the problems. And most of the time it's just, there's one open mortgage and it's the guy that's selling it to you. That mortgage got to get paid off.
Right.
So that's the most common one. But they'll say, here's all the problems. And I take that report, I give it to the seller's attorney, and I say, here's all my problems, fix them. Or give me stuff to fix them. And they go back and they order, paperwork from bankruptcy court, or they go back to the bank and they say, is this mortgage discharged? And they said, yeah. And they say, why didn't you file the discharge? And they say, oops, we forgot. Okay, we'll file it right now. We do all that stuff because all the things on there are things that attach to that particular property. So if you've got a judgment against you, it attaches to all the property you own, and it doesn't leave just because you sell the property. That there is a sort of a ransom for the creditor. They say, well, we need to get paid, and they could theoretically foreclose, but most of them don't do that. They just come at you when you sell the property, because they know you're going to need to fix it. So we go and we make sure that all those problems aren't going to translate to you. That those problems are not going to become your problems. When you are the owner of this house, we make sure those problems are not going to be your problems. There's a variety of ways we get those things fixed. I don't really know if I really want to bore your viewers with a lot of the details of what we do behind the scenes. The moral of the story is we fix it, we make it better, or we come to you and we say, this can't be fixed, you need to walk away from this, because all you're doing is buying a headache here. And that does happen. Fortunately, it doesn't happen that often. But we basically go back to a client and say, this can't be fixed. Like the sellers told us that they've tried all they can, and you don't want to deal with this.
Okay,
yeah. That's what you're here to help protect and save us a headache.
Because I'm looking for a home now. We're looking for a home. We were going to buy this place, but we had some things that need to be fixed also. Yeah. So we're thinking about looking elsewhere. So that's one question I really did have on the realty part of it, and what needs to be done in order for me to go about buying another home.
But also, what do they have to come up with? Since he's saying he wants to buy a home, he's coming to you. But what do you have to make sure they have lined up?
What you wind up having to get to me depends on, are you financing the property, or are you paying cash? If you're getting a mortgage for it, you need to get your mortgage pre-qualification to me. And then really, that's pretty much it. I mean, you have to get your final mortgage approval. You go through a bank or a mortgage broker for that. If you're using a realtor, the realtor does a lot of the stuff, and then the realtor will get it to me. They draw up the contract that says how much you're buying it for, what's your down payment, all the details about the house, stuff like that. They have you sign it, and then they give it to me, and I run with the ball from there. From your perspective, we kind of, between me and the realtor, we just kind of tell you need to get this, you need to get this. Meanwhile, we're doing all this stuff in the background, and when everything finally lines up, and we've got all our title curatives, and we've got all the fixes that we need, and you've got your mortgage qualified, and we're good to go. The bank attorney will do what they got to do, and then me, the seller's attorney, and the bank attorney will get together, pick a day, and then you just show up with your signing hand ready, because you're going to be signing about 1 million documents.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you walk out of there with a copy of your deed that says filed and keys, and then I get to shake your hand and say, congratulations, you just bought a house.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That's the fun part for me. Not the fun part necessarily for you, because now you got this mortgage you could be paying for 30 years, but at least you got your own house, and you don't have to answer to nobody. You don't have to pay your landlord anything. You got to pay your bank something. And you don't got upstairs tenant neighbors that you got to worry about.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had
it's a good
problems
feeling.
like that a while ago. Upstairs neighbors.
People do at some point. Yeah.
It's like they're upstairs like taking tap lessons or something.
Mm-hmm.
The way it goes around in my house, my old house. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
you can hear people running up and down the stairs. Hear clickety clank, lady vacuuming 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, lady, I'm trying to sleep. What are you doing?
And that's why we did straight ownership at the age of 30. Because as a kid, my mother rented. Thank God at 16 she bought a house. So I wouldn't,
Right.
I was like, yeah, no.
That's my next move, man. That's my next move. That was
a good
supposed to be
move.
my move of 2018, but it's my move this year, and it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna
Speaking
happen.
in existence,
I know that's right.
it's going to happen this year.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When I was interning at the firm, wasn't you starting to do as fixing people's credit for them as well, or was that someone you knew that wanted to link up with you?
Because I really need somebody to help me with
No,
my
I
credit.
don't. No. So I started. No, around the time you came in intern for Nick, I was getting into doing what we call surplus money actions for people that lose their home to the tax foreclosure. If you owe $1,000 in taxes, they foreclose on your house and then they sell it at auction for $30,000. The city gets its $1,000 back, but then that $29,000 technically belongs to you. But you gotta do a court process. Gotta go through a whole court process to get it. So that's what I was starting to get into, and that's another thing that I do. So if any of your viewers, have lost their home to a tax foreclosure in Erie County, whether it's city or anywhere else in Erie County or the county foreclosure, and they want to see whether or not there's any money that the county is holding for them, they should come and talk to me because we can help them get it back. And I started to do that because I got a call from an existing client said, I just got this letter from this company out in like Albany or something. He said they'll do it, but they're going to take 50%, whatever money they get. Yeah, that's what that's the face that I made.
Listen.
And I said, no, that's ridiculous. I'll do it.
My money?
I'll do it for 25%.
Okay, I'll do it.
Right.
Look, I'll take the 25 over the 50.
Right.
Yeah, so I
That
did
make
it,
more
and
sense.
it turned out that it was, I won't say it was easy, but it was easy enough that I was able to figure the process out and go through it, and I figured I should start doing this more because if you look in the paper every year, actually the first one should be coming out soon. A lot of people lose their house every single year. And it could be over something stupid like $200 in unpaid user fees in Buffalo. That's the trash fee they pay in Buffalo. If you don't pay that, sometimes they don't even know that they got to pay it.
Wow.
Sometimes the bills don't go to the right place. The city doesn't care. The city just wants its money, and if they don't get it, they foreclose. That's it. And there's a lot of outside investors that come in and snatch up properties left and right.
That's how they do it.
That's how they do it. But remember, if they bought your house for $30,000 and all you had to pay was a $250 fee, then the city cuts itself its $250 and the rest of the money gets held by Stefan Mihailu, the Erie County Comptroller, in your name until you come and petition him to get it back. And he's legally obligated to give it back to you as long as there's a court order. So you got to go to the county court, you got to ask to have it back, and the judge will appoint a referee to make sure that there's no priority liens, because if you've got a $50,000 mortgage on the house, they're going to let the mortgage company know that there's this money out there, and the mortgage company's going to get it first. So the referee makes sure there's nobody ahead of you that's entitled to the money. There isn't. You get all that money back.
Okay.
So it's yours legally. So
See, I pay close attention. You have to, yes. Okay, good. That's something good. So if anybody out there had your home foreclosed on,
or know somebody that had to home foreclosed. Doesn't have to be you.
Yep. If you don't even know,
That's right.
if it wasn't you, but you know somebody that knows somebody,
That's right.
holla at Josh.
I'll definitely have his information online on the website, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. So that's up to you. If you will want
Sure,
to
no, absolutely.
SoundCloud.
bring some clients to you, help you out, help them out. I know, because it sounds good. I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning every time we bring somebody in. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So
And I keep saying knowledge is power.
I'm definitely right. And if I do forget, I go back to the video like, oh, okay.
How else are you gonna know if you don't get it applied to?
Right. Or ask questions.
Yes. Oh, and I ask Menti questions.
She asks a lot.
Many.
That's
Many.
why I,
You
I
learn
leave.
every day.
See, he's the tech. When he starts
Yeah.
talking the technology part, I'm like, okay, you
Yeah.
lost me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, he was like, you ready for the interview? I said, you already know I got my questions. So, you know, because.
Notes either, so
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good. I probably think of it as we're talking, like, okay, what should I say? I probably have them all written down and forget that I wrote them down until after. Oh, that's what I meant to ask them.
Yeah.
But you know,
But yeah. But yeah, so we work out
For a
good.
follow up in a couple weeks.
We sure
oh yeah,
can.
definitely. We really can do
Look,
that
we
if you
sure
want. It's up to
can.
you.
You
It's
know,
up to you.
this is good publicity, good
Good
advertising.
knowledge.
I can bring
and
Dan. I
also,
can bring my partner Dan Webster.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
would love to meet him. Did I
And he-
meet him before?
I don't know. I don't remember. I remember when were you there? You remember when specifically? I was a solo
2017 towards
practitioner.
the end.
Okay, then no. I was a solo practitioner for a long time until this past April. Dan Webster, who did foreclosure defense for the Center for Elder Law and Justice, which is a legal aid organization. He decided to leave public service law and come to the dark side to private law. And he joined me as my partner, and then we formed Webster and Dubs PC. And Dan started out doing mostly foreclosure defense, but now he is rapidly gaining a reputation of being one of the best young estate planning attorneys.
Okay.
You know, helping people that.
Well, that's what I do now.
It's a little crude to put it this way, but people want to hide their money from the government from when they die, or if they have to go into a nursing
Or
home.
Medicaid.
That's what he helps them do. He helps them figure out ways to protect their money so that the government can't come and take it.
And that's what I do. And you know what? They shouldn't be entitled to taking the money for the hard working. And bad enough with number 45 changing the federal tax laws now. That's affecting us. Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm with him. Let's hide our money. And knowledge is power. So I would
Number
love to
45.
bring him back on
Let's do
so
it.
he can show ways.
Let's do it.
Because
Let's get number 45 on.
There you go. He loves to talk.
he talks gibberish and throws tantrums.
He brings up. Yeah, he
I'm
brings
like,
up
are we in
different
the
situations.
nursery?
All I know is I've had the same arguments with the president while listening to him on the radio as I do with my 4-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. My 2-year-old granddaughter is a trip. And she
trip, not
likes
a Trump, right? She's a trip.
She's a trip.
Okay,
She's
good.
not a Trump.
Alright, good,
No.
good.
Our house, no. We
He was on today,
We
right?
are this.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Rambling
I was
about-
at work, listening to his little
I
tantrum.
think he was just shedding fear to people about that situation. Okay, they're bringing gangs over here. They're killing. It was 400
And trafficking and-
something
okay.
thousand deaths in here. It's like they're not doing all those killing.
But here's
Our
the
own American
thing.
people are doing this.
Exactly.
Doing most of those.
Here is the thing. We have just today, wasn't it Illinois, Aurora? In Illinois, there was a shooting. Mass shooting.
I don't
We-
read the newspapers anymore because it's too depressing.
It's
too
depressing.
depressing.
But what we're doing, we have to be up on everything.
Did he fly from Mexico and do it?
No.
Okay.
And get
Did he cross the
this.
border?
Smuggling drugs does not come in just at the border. It's underground tunnels, it's boats, it's airplanes, it's trafficking. And he was talking about trafficking. We're cutting down trafficking. They get kidnapped. They still traffic through airplanes, through boats. What are you talking about? A wall? And why are you trying to ask for $5-point-something billion for a godforsaken stupid wall?
Let's talk about where the real wall needs to be. The real wall needs to be to our border to the north, so those crazy Canadians who speed on the 190 and drive around you like a maniac
Yes.
can't come and do and buy all the clothes out of the mall on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And drop all their clothes in the trash.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I just want to say This could come back to haunt me later when I rent the office. I'm just joking. I love Canadians. I just love to make fun of Canadians.
Well, they always at the
But
Gallery
I've
Mall.
seen they are at the outlets and
I
they
love
put
it,
on
man.
layers because
The
they're
Canadian
going
striptease,
through
isn't
the border. They have to.
Put all the clothes.
Yeah, I seen them in the parking lot. My husband and I was like, we gonna videotape them one day. They're putting on layers and layers and layers. And I'm like,
Canadian striptease, where they take all their clothes off in the parking lot.
yes.
Oh my
Anything
God.
that they're wearing, they don't have to declare.
Exactly.
Right.
But they
I'm
have
kidding.
to declare.
I love Canadians.
Yeah.
He's always
I'm
been a
just
comedian in class. He kept us going.
Yeah.
Because what? We had a night class?
At a night class.
We had a night class, so everybody was like, we're tired. We just want to go home. But he kept it very interesting.
That's good. That's good.
You know,
gotta keep it
and
interesting.
I love it. You do.
don't want nobody
I
falling
don't need
asleep.
a professor go, and this is what you do.
Clear eyes.
Yes. No. So, any other questions or anything else? Well, we're definitely going to have you back with your partner so we could talk some more.
Love to. You
Definitely.
talk about how you shelter, you do shelters to protect your money from the county and from the state.
Oh, they're vultures. They
Yeah,
be coming.
so-
They're leeches. They'll tell you.
And you can also
We
talk
will
about
sue you.
foreclosure defense. A lot of people, a lot of people have this. They have a house, fall on hard times, they get behind. Foreclosure proceedings start. It's humiliating. Nobody wants to talk about it, but not talking about it is
It's
the
not
first step
helping.
to losing your house. If you talk about it, there are ways, and he's the expert on that stuff. So
Good. Yes.
Definitely. That'd be great.
Yes.
we'll work it out.
This time I'll write down more questions.
Yeah.
But we will be uploading this on Wednesday
Great.
at midnight. It'll be on
Definitely.
YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes podcast.
My YouTube debut.
Yes.
There
your
it is.
YouTube debut.
Right.
iTunes
I
podcast,
I don't know
Google
if
Play.
anybody's taped me doing something silly. And I don't know about it. Maybe I got 1 million views already.
They already got 1 million views. He
And
went
then
viral.
like and share,
Right.
and your clients will be able to see it. It'll be on
That's
your
right.
page. Your wife can like and share
right.
it. Your family like and share. We're just trying to get it out there. That's what we're talking about.
People need to know these things.
Yes.
Like stuff that you were saying today, like I said, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot of stuff that was brought in today. So that helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely helped me out a lot. Especially with buying a home.
But I know, and I know they're looking, so I'm like, let's get Josh Dubs on.
Right.
I was like, and he's cool, and I got to connect.
I am cool. She's not wrong. So,
Beautiful.
Well, this is WYTAP.
WYTAP it is.
What you talking about? We're bringing the real. We're talking only real things, and we're bringing knowledge. And like I say in every interview, if you don't know, you're oblivious to it. But once we bring it to you, you have to be accountable, and you can't say you didn't know.
Right.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Do I look fat?
You need to hit that.
I'm looking at the
that
video.
good?
I'm like,
ooh.
I just stopped asking. It's pregnancy weight because my wife is pregnant, so that's
Oh, she is?
congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations.
what do you do?
April, mid-April.
Oh,
What you looking for? What you
boy,
want? Boy,
girl.
girl?
We're having a girl.
Oh, so you got your
nice.
boy, now you get your girl?
Boy and the girl. and then
Anymore?
we're done. Nope, we're
No?
done.
You sure?
Yeah.
Wintertime comes
I'm
and
sure.
it be
When the
a
time
oopsie.
comes,
Yeah, I'm sure.
maybe that one Valentine Day.
Yeah.
Or be that one blizzard.
Trust me, we're done.
You sound like me. We're done. No more. It's over. I'm done.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations.
So,
All right. Again, did you subscribe to our YouTube? And did you
He
go on the
probably don't even-
website?
I didn't go on the website, but I looked at the one that you sent me.
Uh-huh.
So,
Oh,
I did look
yeah.
at that one.
My cousin Marcy.
Yeah, but I didn't. But I don't think I have a YouTube account.
Okay. You don't need a
I'm super
YouTube.
old and.
Oh, you just didn't sign up to have it on your phone? I'll teach you.
Okay.
I'll teach you.
That'll be another podcast for
Yes.
later. How to teach old fogies
How to-
how to save stuff on YouTube.
You know?
I think So.
All right.
All right. This
right.
is YTAP. We're signing out.
All right. Thank you for showing
All right, thank
up.
you.
This
Yeah.
is great.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Anytime.
All right. Have a great night.
Oh yeah, drop your phone. That's nice.
Look, that's why I got an outer box. I got an outer box. Yeah.
Out of box too.
I got to cover. Got to cover and protect my grand.